Hi, I'm Frost, and welcome to this episode 4 of the Beginner's Guide for Age of Wonders Planetfall. And today we're going to be covering commander customization. Right, so right now I am on the main menu, and so we're going to go into commander customization. Now, we're going to look at here really more than anything are the perks and which perks you should choose, which ones are going to be good for you, which ones are not. So this is not going to be a long video, it's going to be quite straightforward. Obviously you can pick one of the pre-made ones, but it's much better having your own. So we're going to go into customize down the bottom here. Okay, we're not going to worry too much about race and the technologies today. We're going to cover those in detail when I cover the races in depth and the technologies in depth. So for now, just pick whichever ones you want. What we're going to do is I'm going to pick just Vanguard and, I don't know, Void Tech for now, just as the basic sort of default ones. Now, if we look to the right, we have our perks. And as you can see, it has pre-allocated a bunch of perks for us. You know, it's made its recommendations. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to turn them all off and set them to 0. So there we go. And no vice. Right, so you can see we have 3 points available. So it's not many, and especially on these kind of higher skilled ones, you can see that it's going to take up quite a bit of your points. Now, down the bottom we have Vice, and the benefit of these is that they add more points for you. The downside, though, is that obviously you're going to get a Vice, and some of these are good and you can use to your own benefit. Others are just not worth your time. So what we'll do is we're going to start at the top. Okay, first up we have Veteran. Now, Veteran, you see, start level 3, gives you 10 skill points after you land, and all units gain experience 15% faster. Now, the 10 skill points that you get at the beginning, you do a couple of battles, you'll get those 10 skill points. It only takes like a few battles to build those up to upgrade your commander, so it's not that big a deal. But the all units gain experience 50% faster is good if you are, especially if you're playing the Vanguard, or if you'd like to play the combat at a strategic level. So you're not necessarily doing the manual combat, but the auto combat. All your troops, every time you use them, especially if they survive, then they're going to gain more experience and become tougher. So that's the benefit of that one. Skilled Diplomat is if you want to go for the unity objective and get the Dawn of the Union, then obviously charisma is an important thing. Although having said that, you know, you get plus 300 relations, but that's just a starter. You know, you could still mess it up and just lose it all. And the bribing the armies to leave sectors, what that is that if you haven't come across it yet, that if an NPC faction owns a particular sector that you want to use to expand your colony, then you can ask them to leave and you have to pay a price for that. And that's reduced by 35%. But really the cost isn't that high. So to me, the Skilled Diplomat isn't really worth it. I think it's kind of gives you too little for your buck, really. Now moving down, Martial Tradition. Okay, Weapons Expertise decreases weapon research cost by 25%. So if you like your combat, makes complete sense. Ruthless Killer, once per turn when your commander kills a unit in combat, they immediately regain all action points. Now, if you like being the hero and you like manual combat and just going all out and using your commander all the time, then this one makes perfect sense for you. And like I say, decreasing the weapon research cost, that's good because obviously that's in your skill tree. It means you climb up your skill tree faster, so you get better mods and better equipment and better units faster than you would normally. Now, the Merchant decreases your economy research cost by 15%. And dwelling trading is 10% cheaper. Okay, now I'll just start with the second one. The Xeno Trader, what it is that the various NPC factions, you can go into the diplomatic menus and you can buy stuff from them. But the reality is you're not going to do it very often. You know, you're more likely going to want to have your own types of armies and the units you're used to rather than buying someone else's. So it's not something I can highly recommend. And your economy research, yeah, if you're a builder and you like just building an empire, then that makes sense to do it for that. So if you want to make your colonies build faster and you want them to be more productive, then this one makes more sense. So if you're one of these people that likes to build an empire, then go to war, then maybe you want to consider the Merchant, but don't worry about the Xeno Trader. Now the Star Union Scholar, now this one is your secret technology expertise or your technology expertise, which in my case here is Void Tech. Now, with this, if you're going to want to play the game with the view of launching your Doomsday weapon, you want to have this. Because this is going to allow you to go through the military tree and the secret technology and build that up much, much faster and get to the end point where you can actually launch your Doomsday. So if your Doomsday is your thing, Star Union Scholar is what you're going to want to use. And then your covert is if you like your sneaky stuff and you like your energy siphons and you like messing up the other players' economies and also their military capabilities and spy on them and so forth, then this one makes complete sense. Both the skills are pretty good. I mean, a 20% drop in the covert expertise tree means that you can climb it very, very quickly. And also you get these +2s on your covert strength and covert defense, which means your chances of actually succeeding covert operations are much better, whilst the enemies have a more of a negative chance of actually succeeding. So that's definitely a good one if you like using your covert stuff. Right, so that's all the background. Now the colony supplements. Now for these, there's only one actually I recommend, and that's the energy cache, and I will explain why with the others. Okay, the data repository, okay, you get 2 random texts, so it picks up 2 things from the tree and just gives them to you. The thing is that you're not going to get those throughout the whole game, and they may not be the text that you want. So wouldn't you rather just play a few turns and then choose the ones you want? I mean, that would be my approach, but if you feel differently, then please say so in the comment section. Okay, the military detachment, you start with a larger army. Well, there isn't really much benefit to that because all of the NPC nodes that you have to do at the beginning of the game, the army you start with by default is perfectly capable of handling those. So you might as well have the money for the energy, also the energy cache, and then you can choose whether you want to build more armies or decide if you want to do something else a couple of turns in, like build a colonizer. So I personally, once again, military detachment, it seems just too much of a short-term game. And same with the colonist cryopods, just build a sector, make it a farming sector, and you'll get those 2 extra colonists in no time. So really, most of those don't really have that much effect in the game, whilst the extra 300 energy, you can do a lot with that. So if you think that a unit, a basic unit only costs like 40 units to build, you've got a lot of energy to play with, and I highly recommend that one. Okay, now we're going to go into our commander loadouts. I would go with Vanguard basic equipment. I would always go basic equipment with this. And the reason why is that all of these things you can acquire later in the game, and I think to me it'd be much more important to use that point in order to get your Marshal, Merchant, Star Union or Covert Operative skills, which are going to be much more focused on the type of game you're thinking you're going to play. Also, with this one that's quite interesting is the Vanguard. If you look down on the left here, they have powerful range units and weak melee capability, so they're range. And yet the suggestion the game is making for you is that you want the melee equipment to start with, when really, if you're going to go for any kind of benefits, you're going to go for the assault equipment because that's ranged. So what I'm trying to show here is that don't necessarily believe that the recommendations they make are actually the right ones. Okay, the assault vehicles and support vehicles, essentially what it's doing is, okay, it gives you a buggy or a vehicle, but what it's doing is giving you some of the skills that you don't have to upgrade later on. But piloting is only 5 skill points. Vitality 1 and 2 I think works out at 4 skill points, so that's 9 skill points. So once again, as I mentioned earlier, you can get that within the first sort of 7 to 8 turns, and the vehicles are quite actually low down in the military tree anyway, a skill tree. So it doesn't take long to get to those. So I don't think there is much of a benefit to have that at the beginning, especially not spending 2 points on it when once you're into the sort of double-digit turns of the game, you're probably going to get them anyway. So same with the support vehicle, I would leave that. Right, so that brings us on to Vice. Now, out of the Vices, Cruel, the downside with that one is that you get +4 unhappiness. So you either have to allocate more people, like you saw in the last video, colonies, you have to allocate more people to the happiness sector, which means all your production and your revenues all go down. But maybe you want to do that because you use a lot of manual combat and you're more warmongering, but then you still need to build stuff. So to me, I think, especially if you have a lot of colonies, that's a lot of resources that you're going to be losing for the benefit of that. Once again, let me know in the comments what you think. Now, the kleptomaniac, once again, this one's a bad deal. You gain the following. You basically, you lose 10 energy from your empire each turn. Now, that happens throughout the whole length of the game. And for that, you get a random mod, okay, to start with. So why would you trade just one item to start with something that's going to be negative throughout the whole game? So I would stay well away from the kleptomaniac. Now, the party animal, that one I would say, yeah, that makes much more sense compared to the cruel, where there's a big drawback. Reducing your production by 10% isn't such a big deal as losing sort of revenue from all of your colonies, and then you do get that boost in morale. And like I say, if you're doing a lot of manual combat and you're using your armies a lot, then that's something you can definitely consider. Although all it's going to do is give you good startup loadout, for commander loadout. That's where you're going to spend those points, and those you're going to burn at the beginning of the game anyway. So is it really worth it? Then stubborn, it's going to reduce your knowledge. And as you get further and further in the game, the knowledge research becomes more and more important. So you may not notice it at the beginning, but further into the game, it's going to really cause you issues. And you and your commanding army gain 2+2 resistance to status effects. You can get that as a hero skill. So you can acquire that and put that manually onto your army commanders. So once again, -2, I don't think it's particularly worth it. And finally, decadent. Well, once again, you are reducing your food income, and you get a hit point increase of 10. And a hit point increase of 10 is nothing because it's only your army commander that's going to get that, I assume. Actually, I need to double check, but please let me know in the comments, but I'm assuming it's just your army commander that's getting +10 vitality. And that's just that's one skill point at the beginning of the game. So it really doesn't seem to make sense to me. So I would stay well away from the vices. And in return for that, just give up your commander loadouts, and then that way you can get one of these ones, which is much more valuable. Let's say like covert operative, and your energy cache, and you are good to go. So there you go. So that's my view on the customization. I mean, we can go to next. This is all down to you. You can I can't. This is very subjective. You can choose how your commander's going to look. But whatever you do, just give them a good name. So pick a good name for your commander. And that's it for now. Once again, thank you for watching. Please click like or dislike. Please subscribe if you're enjoying this guide and you want to see more stuff from me. And leave your comments and make sure you hit the bell if you want notifications. Thanks a lot. See you at the next one. Bye.